Hey everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back again to do what we love to do best here on this channel, which is to talk about a Star Trek book. We have finished Star Trek Titan, Fallen Gods, which is the one, two, three, four, five, six, seventh book, I think, maybe, I don't know, in the Titan series. Anyway, it's been a while since I visited this series. We've not been back to Titan in probably over a year, I would say, at least probably 2 years, with the way time flies here, right? But Titan was one of the series that we originally kind of started this channel on. Well, it was one of the big ones, right? That we kind of started talking about and really was like the first thing we got into and we're writing down and we're really enjoying. So it is definitely glad to be back to Titan yet again. And, again, one of the lovely things that is great about Titan, of course, it is a Captain Riker book, right? Now you don't get so much of that with Fallen Gods. It does really kind of focus more on the additional crew that they have, and then as well as there really is a lot going on here, to be honest with you, and it comes because this book comes right after the Typhon Pact. Now, I know nothing about the Typhon Pact. Now I know a little bit about the Typhon Pact, just from what I've learned in this book. But the Typhon Pact was a very big. I'm looking for it now. It's down here. What, six? No, six, seven books, maybe 7 books in that series. Very big series. There was a lot going on. I can tell from what happened in this book that it definitely shook up the Federation quite a bit and had some ramifications that we'll talk about here in this book. But it kind of makes me, for me, I think I prefer when the books are more standalone. Uh, I felt that I was definitely missing out on something by not knowing what happened in the Typhon Pact, right? What went down. And that was a big part of it. And honestly, for the author's part, it didn't take away from the book too much. Look, my hand's over here now, too. But what I will say, though, we're going to fix that, is that, again, it left me kind of wanting to know what the heck was going on there, right? So I am definitely looking forward to getting into that whole thing at some point. But, I mean, to be honest with you, before I get into a huge extended series like Typhon Pact, or, gosh, there's some other ones, too. Um, you know, I want to hit more of the single, the standalone stories, right? And in fact, I'm going to make a big push towards doing a lot of short stories upcoming here too, because that's something that I've basically not covered at all on this channel, which definitely it's a huge part of the Star Trek lit universe, and we got to get there. But we got to stay on target here. We are talking about Star Trek Titan Fallen Gods here today. And this is, again, now this was written by Michael Martin. This was published in 2012. And this was it's backwards. Anyway, and again, it's a follow-up to like a very big series that happened, right? But the author, Michael Martin here, does a great job of just also telling a fun story that, let me try this. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, sorry about that. That was weird. Okay, anyway, we're back. That was Mirror Universe, Josh, and Talk About Trek. Sorry, I got distracted. We got a fun story here, right? Again, it comes off of some other things, so that you're jumping into some things you don't know. But you get your classic. First off, it's got a great start. Your classic kind of Trek story start, where you're on this planet, you've got this very strange race of aliens, and you're trying to figure out what's happening as they're kind of throwing you into the plot, right? And basically the plot is that on this planet, which is in trouble, the sun is throwing off huge, solar flares. It's been going on for some time. So there's these two sects, basically. There's the preservers and the destroyers, or the trashers, I think they call them. And the trashers now have come to the preservers to, basically destroy all the machinery of the old gods, right? Because they believe it is what is kind of keeping them down, when in fact it's the only thing that is keeping the planet still going, right? So a lot of stuff goes down there, and you have to love that in a Star Trek story, since it's not on the TV show, you can do whatever you want with the aliens, right? And that's what's great about this. You don't have to worry about budget constraints. You're only constrained by your imagination. And the aliens, I think, were described as something like maybe pony size, cockroach slash kind of cricket. I got a cricket vibe from them, because they were doing a lot of like striations. I don't think I'm saying that right. Also, I love that this book is. I felt like I was reading a textbook, and I'm saying that in a good way, because just there was an incredible amount of very, very large words and a lot of technical talk, and he did it very well. Now, Michael Martin is the one that started the Titan series with Andy Mangels, right? I'm looking and I can't see it from that far. Anyway, but he was the one that wrote the first two, or co-wrote the first two, right? Anyway, getting off target again. Anyway. Take a drink every time I say anyway. You'll be wasted by the time this is over. All right. Yes. Very wordy, very sciencey. The Andorians have left the Federation. It's like, whoa, okay, all right, cool. Now, first off, I was happy to be getting Andorians, because, man, Andorians, I feel, are wholly underrepresented in Star Trek, right? Like, man, God, Jeffrey Combs did a great job. But other than Enterprise, where have the Andorians been fully represented, So I'm hoping in whatever Star Trek series they do decide to do next, we have to have an Andorian officer. Man, that would be sweet. I know we had Hemmer on Strange New Worlds, and then they killed Hemmer off, but it wasn't enough. We need more Andorians, and this book gives you Andorians. Andoria, after whatever happens in the Typhon Pact books, they leave the Federation, so the Andorians basically. And there's so much going on in this, too. There's a lot to digest. But they have a population issue, right? So the Andorians are kind of recalling all able-bodied people back to their planet to aid in getting the population going up again, right? So that's one of the things that's going on. And now, of course, the Titan is a deep space exploration ship, so they're off exploring. And they are contacted, and basically Captain Riker is told, your 6 Andorian crewmates are going to have to be turned over and either reassigned or repatriated back to Andoria. And they say this because basically I think that there's like a concern, right? A security concern, thinking that, they're going to do something against them, right? And this rubs Captain Riker the wrong way entirely. And, he doesn't want to go along with it, right? So that's kind of like the setup of what's going on kind of diplomatically in the story. The meat of the story comes when the Titan comes to the system where the planet we originally talked about is. And they have this, they call it the Vela Pulsar, which is a star. It's putting off this incredible energy, right? And that's what's destroying this planet. And the Titan's presence in the area has affected this and increased this and basically made it much worse, right? So now they have to attempt to try to... Wait, hold on. I gotta tell the story the right way here. So they gotta attempt to try to fix the situation, and I have to say it's a very different book from what other Star Trek books I've read. And I don't know if that's because I did take too long to read it. That's the thing. If you take too long, you kind of fall out of it. And I think that did play a part into it. But it was kind of a very different kind of story, dealing with both the political aspect and then the story on the planet. And both of these things were fully disconnected from each other. one had no pull or play upon the other whatsoever, right? So, but in the end, I mean, it was interesting. It was almost like they were telling kind of like two different stories, and one of the most, I don't know, honestly, one of the most interesting endings of a Star Trek book that I've ever read. It really left me wondering, did he write, is there some sequel to this that he wrote? There has to be some follow up to what went down in this story. And if you don't want to be spoiled, uh, just don't listen anymore because I'll start talking about spoilers and stuff now. But yeah, it was kind of crazy. So let's kind of go over the two different stories here. Basically, you've got the Andorian situation, right? And you've got these 6 Andorian officers, and it focuses on one in particular. Her name is Pava, and she is the security officer. She is training with Tuvok and kind of working with him to learn to like control and just basically get stronger, right? Um, so she is what I would honestly say is the kind of like the main character, at least of that side of the story, right? And I think that was awesome because we don't get enough Andorian love in Star Trek, or at least in not what I've read so far. Maybe there's more out there, but the story on the planet itself is quite interesting. The two sects on the planet, right? And again, these are insectoid creatures. One is trying to destroy, the other is trying to save this stuff. The planet was once inhabited by a very powerful and advanced civilization, which has over time deteriorated into this, and now their system, which has protected them from this Vela pulsar for so long, is also deteriorating. The Trashers have made it even worse, and in an attempt to save the world, basically, the system's artificial intelligence, which is called, it's got a name, it's like 114 Undercity Maintenance Module. Undercity Maintenance Module 116, alright? So he kind of comes to life, is kind of brought to life by the preservers, but then when he detects the Titan, he shoots himself to the Titan, realizing it's kind of like the only way to save the planet, makes contact with the Titan, and then kind of, man, see, there's a lot going on in this book, right? He basically initiates this kind of 3-way mind meld between Tuvok and White Blue, who's another AI on the Titan, right? And then between the 3 of them, they kind of determine that they need to go back to the planet. They need to interface with the main Undercity module, and that's the only way to restart this thing and get the basically get the shields up, right? To protect the planet, protect the civilization that's there. So that's the plan. They've got to get there, and they've got to get there in a shuttlecraft. If they try to take the ship to the planet, it's only going to disrupt things more. So there's your two stories. Commander Vale, the first officer, is going to take the Armstrong, that's a shuttlecraft, along with Tuvok, White Blue, a doctor, some other people, and they're going to go to the planet and try to do that. And then you got the situation on the ship, which is then confounded and compounded by the arrival of the Andorian cruiser. I think it was called the Thrar. No, here it's right in the back here. You know what's great about these Titan books, though, I do want to say, is at the back of the book they put this who's who aboard the Titan, and you get the list of all the different names of all the different people, which is great because they have an incredibly diverse crew of people on the Titan, and it is kind of hard to remember each and every single one of them. But here, let me go to the last chapter here, and again, this was the IGW Shantharin Thaclane, okay? And that is the, Zarar is the commander of this ship, right? So this Thaclane shows up and basically says, you got to hand over all your Andorian officers to us. And Riker's like, no, we're not doing that. Eventually he agrees to just an interview with each of them. And this is where the book really takes a pretty wild turn, right? When he beams these people over, there's like an incident, a transporter incident. There's something going on, right? Like what is this burst of power? And there's something taking extra long to do it. It turns out he is pulling a second chances Y'all know what that is, the second chances? He's creating transporter duplicates. And he does it with all of the Andorians. Eventually, one of them gets killed. Pava actually gets killed in an escape attempt. The clone. They clone her again. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just close off this diplomacy section of the book. Basically, all 6 of the Andorian officers get interviewed by the commander of the Andorian vessel. They all refuse to be repatriated and want to remain in their posts aboard the Titan. Of course, the other problem is Starfleet Command has ordered all of them to be reassigned, and they have to, abide by that or whatever. They find a way through that. Don't worry. But again, you know what? We're gonna save that for last. Let's save that for last because that is actually that's kind of the creepy part about this book, right? But let's finish up on the planet. Commander Vale, Tuvok, White, Blue, and the crew, they get to the planet. They make it through the kind of the hordes of people down there. They get down to the place, and basically they're kind of like at the point where they've made it there, but they know that there's no way that they can make it back, right? So they interface with the thing, but luckily the undersea maintenance module is able to basically make it so that they have enough shield strength to get back to their ship, and also the AI White Blue decides to merge himself with this module, right? So that he can better save the planet, right? By himself alone, he wasn't going to be able to do it. He was too deteriorated. Things were going wrong. So he merges with him, effectively kind of sacrificing himself to stay there, save the planet. And also, they implant a suggestion in Tuvok's head that as soon as they can, to go to warp in their shuttlecraft at this speed, at this frequency, at this warp, whatever. And if they do it just right, they can do so without disturbing the balance of things in this galaxy, right? So it works out to be a happy ending for all. They get back to the Titan. The Titan is able to successfully, recover all of their Andorian crewmates, and the planet is saved. And they even think that there might be a way they can still bring back White Blue somehow, some way, even though part of his essence stayed there on the planet, right? Here's the kicker. Again, that Commander Zrar, he pulled a second chances. He transporter duplicated all 6 of the Titan's Andorian officers. And the book ends with Pava, the duplicated Pava, aboard the Andorian ship as they're warping back to Andoria, and she's their prisoner, right? And she meets with her, like kind of an old friend that's there on the ship, who explains that he saw her before and he saw her die, And then she kind of realizes what's going on, and then the book just ends. Wow, I was like, whoa! That was cool. It was a good ending. I like that because it was quite unexpected. I figured there would be some solution to that story before the end. There wasn't. It was left open. And I wonder if that's something then that goes forward into the next series, which I think is called The Fall, I believe. Man, I gotta organize my Star Trek books again. I did. I added some new shelves over here now, so I got some thinking to do. I got some stuff to do. It's gonna be fun though. Oh, it's so fun. Gosh, I like organizing books, don't you? I like talking about books too, Star Trek books mostly. This one was a good one. It's been fun to talk about. This was Josh will talking about Star Trek Titan, Fallen Gods by Michael A. Martin. Glad to be reading the Titan series again. Very excited to jump into some short story reading. And I think we're going to start with some Distant Shores. You know what we're talking about. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. As always, thanks for listening. And always, my friends, live long, and prosper. We'll see you guys in the next one. You have a good night.